You're watching Creative Lines and Techniques, and we are going to use the most well-rounded rider of all time, Eli Tomac. Yes, I'm calling him the most well-rounded rider of all time. If you disagree or agree, let me know in the comments. This is the section parallel to the start, and it has a massive quad. And let's watch Tomac as he singles, then doubles. You can see he shifts up, gets back onto the toes, and seat bounce and preloads to do a massive quad. Scariest jump on the track. And what made this track even more scary was the concrete like ruts involved. The track was wet at one point because of the rain it got earlier. And then when it dried out, it became like concrete, which made it very slippery because you had these little marbles on top because the riders no longer could dig underneath the base. It was essentially asphalt, and then you had dirt on top of it, which you saw these guys slide all around, all over the place, which made it difficult to actually hold your line. And with the ruts that were already formed, it made it increasingly difficult. I said it in my previous video, you had to slow down to go fast. But the biggest hit of Nashville was, in fact, this quad. For the sake of comparison, let's use Gas rider Justin Barcia and then Privateers Team Tedder's Justin Hill. Incredibly impressed with how Justin Hill is riding, and I know with a better bike, a factory bike, he would do increasingly better as far as performance going. However, I digress. Let's watch Barcia. He singles and he spins out because of that silt on top of the concrete, and he actually opts for the Tomac technique of shift up and sit down to preload. It's a seat bounce. There's two different types of preloads. You can sit down. The harder of the two preloads, you get more airtime, which creates more lift, and it's actually slower because of that lift. And then you can stand up, which is harder because you actually have to go faster because you don't create as much force for a higher lift. But in this case, you can see Hill behind Barcia. He doesn't even preload. He just uses that Team Tedder's motor and does the quad without preloading. What I find interesting is the next triple. We can see now Barcia doesn't preload. He just stands up, and then Hill decides to sit down to preload to get the lift over the triple. Very interesting. Two different techniques, but arguably just as fast. Back to Tomac. Right before the dragon back, I want you to pay attention to his shift foot. We can see him shift up, which I would speculate is probably third gear. He probably went down the section in second, and he lands really, really hard, a little over jump, which you would think that bike would sort of bog, and it'd be hard to roll around in third. But notice, Tomac, he's always hard on the clutch. He ends up standing up with both feet. He's not sticking his leg out, which I kind of find lazy. However, he is incredibly fast with his technique. Maybe it's saving more energy. It's something that always has perplexed me as the Supercross season goes on, is I see these riders continuously stand on the pegs. But watch him as he dumps the clutch. Look at that rear wheel. You can see it all of a sudden just some roost there because he's dumping the clutch to get that revs back up on that bike. Here, we'll even listen to it just briefly.
The mud race, right?
You can hear him.
The mud race, right? Last.
Drop that clutch. And we'll continue with fast forwarding him to the next corner. And notice, he doesn't take his feet off the pegs. Feet are, well, briefly, but he doesn't stick that foot out. He just lifts it up enough to where that foot peg can fold over because of the deep of the rut. And going to the next corner, what does Tomac do? Keeps his feet on the pegs. You know, and that brings me to a saying. Before you can go fast, you got to look flash. So why don't you head over to PureMoto.com, search over 1.4 million items currently in stock in 203 local retailers and counting. It's easy to go to product search, and let's type in a EVS chest protector with shoulder protection, because I know a lot of riders don't have shoulder protection anymore. You can either buy it locally or have online delivery. Simply pick the closest store nearest to you, the size you want, and have it held for pickup. And if you want to have it shipped to you, well, it's simple. You just go to online delivery, you pick out what size you want, what color, and you get it shipped straight to your door. Make sure you shop PureMoto.com. Because the track layout had so many 90-degree corners, we saw riders just take the shortest distance, inside to inside. And Tomac ended up mixing things up by taking the long way around the track. And this was a perfect example. Behind the starting gate, Tomac, as opposed to double, then goes to the inside, he's going to go roll, double to the outside, roll the off-camber, not use any brakes, then double out. It was beautiful to just watch using the entire track. I do think that it would have been nice to see riders brake check each other here on this inside. It was a perfect opportunity that was missed, because it was a one-line rut. You were slow enough, you could just slam on your brakes, have somebody get pissed off behind you because they hit your rear wheel. The only other line that I saw riders take options to, and this was a low percentage of the riders, pretty much everyone was follow the leader on the outside of the sand. I saw Shimoto, ironically the Kawasaki's, Joe and AC go to the inside. Here's Joe. You can see him at the bottom of the corner. Just rolls, then comes through the sand. To me, it looked like it was exponentially harder on the body. It exerted more energy to take that inside than it was just to roll the outside. And here, you can look at AC behind Wilson, and you can definitely tell the expenditure of energy used here as opposed to Dino. Dino has this nice berm on the outside, and AC has to southwick it by hauling ass on the inside, and just now he's got to really try to get his speed up. You can definitely use less energy through the sand if you're going faster. And because AC has to start from almost a dead stop as opposed to Dino rolling with the berm behind him, he's using more energy. And that's one of the reasons why I believe riders weren't really taking that inside, is A, it was harder to keep your speed up, and two, it required more energy. Continuing with the sand, you got to have Jason Anderson in these videos at least once. He's on the outside, and watch him wheelie almost entirely over the last bump. I believe it's Marquier is next to him. And look at the amount that Jason Anderson soaks up by just wheeling over it. How much lower he stays and how much faster he's going. Just, it's like art moving in 3D. And finally, if you've made it this far, make sure you hit that subscribe button. A lot of you are choosing to do so. I see the subscriber boost, so I appreciate every single one of you fanatics of two wheels. This impressed me the most. It was Hunter Lawrence on the start. And what typically should have messed him up. There's a saying, there's the rule and the exception. Unfortunately, the majority of us are the rule, not the exception. The rule is if you make a little mistake and you jump the gate, you're going to get a bad start because now you're having to grab the brakes and kind of roll back. In this case, Hunter was the exception. Notice how before that gate drops, do you see him? He's twisting the throttle. Boom. He's moving. He's jumping the gate. And he still gets the whole shot. He is this individual right here. Having that factory bike doesn't hurt, but there's star bikes next to him, and we know how fast those star bikes, even know that you've got the Phoenix Hondas and just the HRC Hondas dwindling that gap as far as motor performance. Even the PRMX guys, because you've got Yoder out there getting whole shots on a privateer bike. But again, I digress. Thank you for watching. Till next time, keep it WFO. Barra da 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 wall.